So anyways, Josh Taylor vacates yet another belt, the IBF belt. We've got the return of Leo Santa Cruz and Mauricio Lara. Anyways, roll that beautiful bean footage.
Hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, fam? It's Hot Boxing Minute, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, back at you with the realness, of course, as only I know how to bring it. Got a couple of cool, interesting things that came up today in the boxing world. You know I got to discuss it. Let's start with Josh Taylor. My, how the mighty have fallen when it comes to Josh Taylor. Once hailed as one of the pound-for-pound kings, according to some people, he still is. And mind you, I rock with Josh Taylor. I remember watching him. I first got exposed to him in the World Boxing Super Series when he actually got all those unified belts set, when he got the unified belts and he ended up beating Regis Prograis. Some would argue Regis Prograis should have won that fight. Doesn't really matter. He had that definitive victory over Jose Ramirez and became undisputed. Then he had all the belts. He had that fight against Jack Catterall, and I think that was where everything started to go downhill a bit. He won against Jack Catterall, but in the eyes of the general public, he lost. And anyways, he's been dropping belts, shaking them off left and right. Technically, he vacates them, but, you know, these vacates are in lieu of essentially him being stripped of those belts. So, to me, here's the way I view it. Josh Taylor, as of late, has dropped 3 of the 4 belts for the undisputed junior welterweight. Sorry. I was going to say junior lightweight. That's 130 pounds. That's Shakur Stevens' weight class. We're not talking about that. Okay, so Josh Taylor was the undisputed champion in the junior welterweight division, but he has now officially lost 3 of the 4 belts. He has vacated them. But to me, that's essentially the same as quitting a job before you know you're about to get fired, because those sanctioning bodies were all slowly making moves to strip him of his belt if he wasn't defending against the mandatories. And he didn't feel like defending against the mandatories, rightfully so. He had that close fight with Jack Catterall. So, anyways, outside of that, he just recently vacated the IBF belt. The IBF belt, if I'm not mistaken, was the first actual junior welterweight belt that he had won. So he vacates the junior welterweight IBF belt, and at this point, he only holds the ring lineal and the WBO straps. Now, here's the cool part. So now that Josh Taylor has vacated his IBF belt, which is the 3rd belt that he's vacated since he became undisputed champion, now it's going to be up to Subriel Matias from Puerto Rico and Jeremias Ponce from Argentina to square off in a fight, which will likely be added to the Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius card. So that's going to be an interesting fight right there for the junior welterweight division, because Subriel Matias and Jeremias Ponce are both exciting fighters that actually do have a lot of power and do knock opponents out. And this is going to be a fun fight. They both have their little cult followings. You know, the Argentinians come with a lot of discipline. You know, you've got Maravilla, and of course you've got, who was the other guy from Argentina? Why am I forgetting his name? Chino Maidana. And of course there's Puerto Rico, long history of solid boxing coming from out there with guys like Miguel Cotto and Carlos Ortiz back in the days, and obviously you've got Felix Tito Trinidad. But yeah, you've got Subriel Matias and Jeremias Ponce, who are going to be picking up the slack that Josh Taylor eventually left behind. Josh Taylor just is not giving a rat's ass right now about these belts, and it's perfectly understandable. He does not want to pay these sanctioning fees, and why would anybody? You know, when you're an undisputed champion and you get into a fight, you have to pay sanctioning fees to all 4 sanctioning bodies. So Josh Taylor is left with just the WBO and the ring lineal title. He is still the lineal junior welterweight champion, meaning he's the man that beat the man. So he's still the man until he gets beat, or he retires, or he moves up in a weight and somebody else has to collect all the belts again, just like Thanos in his Infinity Gauntlet, and fight and duke it out to become the lineal champion. But for now, Josh Taylor is still the ring lineal and holds the WBO belt. From as far as I can tell, it looks like his next opponent is still going to be that rematch with Jack Catterall. And I believe that's the fight he should take, because he lost a lot of public face with that. I was huge on Josh Taylor up until that Jack Catterall fight, and I still like Josh Taylor, but he better go handle that mess. I think he can beat Jack Catterall in a rematch. We'll find out soon enough when he goes down. Now, let's talk about what's going on with this WBA belt situation with Leo Santa Cruz. Some people are on the fence about Leo Santa Cruz. Most people are either to the left or to the right of it. They either love Leo Santa Cruz and love the fact that I think he's a 4-division champion, if I'm not mistaken. Some people can't stand the fact that he barely fights, and he's held on to that same WBA belt and barely defended it once within the last 3 years. He just recently defended it against Keenan Carbajal, Manitas de Piedra's little nephew, Michael Carbajal, the first flyweight boxing champion to get paid $1 million for a fight. Yes, that was Michael Carbajal when he fought Chiquita Gonzalez. Arguably one of the greatest boxing rivalries of all time for those of you who are not boxing history nuts. But yes, Leo Santa Cruz did recently defend that WBA strap. I want to say at 126 at featherweight. He defended it against Keenan Carbajal recently. It was on a PBC card because he's a PBC fighter. And I think that's a large complaint that people have with Leo Santa Cruz. So either way, Leo Santa Cruz was originally supposed to fight Lee Wood. Now, for those of you that don't remember, Lee Wood was the guy who got that stunning knockout of the year candidate against Mick Conlan in that huge fight that was out there in England. It was a big affair. You had, Lee Wood from Nottingham, England, fighting there in front of the hometown crowd. His opponent was Mick Conlan coming out there from Belfast, Northern Ireland. It was such an amazing fight. I strongly suggest for those of you who are not big on watching European boxing to go back into the archives. If you got DAZN, I think it's still on DAZN. You could probably find it on YouTube. The arena was packed. The crowds had to be split in half. One side was Belfast, Ireland fans. The other side was England fans, because you can't have them sitting next to each other because they are so feverish about their boxing and so nationalistic that they would end up having a riot. And it felt like the energy in the crowd was going to break out into a riot. I know a lot of people aren't really into what's going on there across the pond as far as boxing goes, but that fight between Mick Conlan and Lee Wood was one of the greatest fights I have seen all year. Easily a candidate for knockout of the year. There was sways of momentum going back and forth. The audience was chanting. You had the pro-Ireland crowd. You had the pro-England crowd, and they're just going at it. Oh, electric. One of the best atmospheres I've ever seen for a boxing match ever. And so originally it was supposed to be Leo Santa Cruz fighting Lee Wood, and that had me excited. Leo Santa Cruz isn't exactly the most powerful puncher in the world, but he's a great technical boxer, or a puncher with boxer features. And then you got Lee Wood, who's a puncher that's just got a really solid chin, and he's shown that he could take a lot of abuse, and you're going to have to put Lee Wood down to really get him to stop coming at you. And for a guy that doesn't have a lot of power like Leo Santa Cruz, that makes for an interesting proposition as far as them two fighting. But they're not going to fight, y'all. That fight is dashed. There will no longer be a fight between Leo Santa Cruz and Lee Wood. That fight has been put into shambles. It's actually going to be Leo Santa Cruz fighting with, why am I forgetting his name? Good Lord. And he just beat Rey Vargas to get the WBC belt, Rey Vargas. So Leo Santa Cruz will not be fighting Lee Wood as originally planned for that WBA belt. Instead, Leo Santa Cruz is going to be fighting Rey Vargas, the guy that just beat the Filipino champion Mark Magsayo and won that WBC belt. Now, that's an interesting proposition. Two guys who are kind of boxers with strong, punchers with strong boxer features. So it's going to make for an interesting matchup. Honestly, I think that Leo Santa Cruz versus Rey Vargas is a more enticing matchup than it is against Lee Wood. I think, honestly, I would have probably favored Lee Wood in a fight against Leo Santa Cruz. But with Leo Santa Cruz and Rey Vargas, that's very interesting. Very interesting. So, just a quick recap. Leo Santa Cruz, who was originally planned to have a fight with Lee Wood, the guy who had that crazy mix-up with Mick Conlan. Instead, it's not going to be Lee Wood. Now Leo Santa Cruz is going to fight Rey Vargas, the understudy of the great legend Nacho Berestain. Rey Vargas just came off that fantastic win against Mark Magsayo and won the WBC strap. So it's going to be a title unification fight between Leo Santa Cruz and Rey Vargas for Leo Santa Cruz's WBA belt and Rey Vargas' WBC belt. I'm looking forward to that one. And not that Lee Wood is left out of the mix. Lee Wood is not left out of the mix. My man with the crazy, stupendous knockout of the year of Mick Conlan. Y'all better go back and check out that fight because that fight was stunning. Anyways, So Lee Wood is not going to be fighting Leo Santa Cruz as originally planned. Actually, I think he got an even better stylistic matchup. He's going to end up fighting Maurice. You see that? I get these lights in front of me, and I don't even have my water bottle. This is so garbage. Normally I record, I have my water next to me, and I should always have it next to me because that's just common sense. Anyways, back to my original train of thought. So Lee Wood was originally scheduled to fight Leo Santa Cruz. That fight's been nixed. I think there's a better style matchup. Now Lee Wood's new opponent is going to be Mauricio Lara, Bronco Lara. Now you've got Mauricio Lara. He's one of those fighters that's not here for a long time. He's here for a good time. And he's trying to knock you the hell out. And guess what? Lee Wood is one of those guys that's trying to knock you out too. So this fight is going to be fireworks. And I'm looking forward to that matchup too. I might just lean more towards Bronco Lara. I was actually there at his last fight in San Diego. He fought in the undercard to the Chocolatito El Rey Martinez fight. Who was his opponent? Some tough kid from Hollywood, North Hollywood, Emilio Sanchez. And yo, they were scrapping. It was a fun fight. Before that, he had those 2 dust-ups with Josh Warrington. I'm not exactly sure why. Well, I know why Eddie didn't want to let Josh Warrington fight Bronco Lara again, because Bronco Lara, in my opinion, is Josh Warrington's kryptonite. And, so we're going to see the return of Bronco Lara. He's going to be fighting Lee Wood for Lee Wood's WBA strap. It's one of the regular titles. The super strap is actually held by Leo Santa Cruz. But, Bronco Lara is an exciting fighter. He got that recent knockout against Emilio Sanchez in the undercard to the Chocolatito Rey Martinez fight. And before that, he had those fights with Josh Warrington, the fighting pride of Leeds. And Eddie is not trying to stick Josh Warrington anywhere near that dude, Mauricio Lara, because I'm under the strong impression that Mauricio Lara, Bronco Lara, is Josh Warrington's kryptonite. Josh Warrington don't want no smoke with that boy. Stop, Eddie Hearn. Anyways, that's what's going on in the world of boxing for today. How do you think the fight plays out, folks, between Lee Wood and Bronco Lara and Leo Santa Cruz and Rey Vargas? Let me know in the comments section. Hit that like button if you haven't already done so. Are you not pressing follow? To your boy, this is Hot Boxing Minute, the future of boxing analysis on TikTok and YouTube. Peace.